You are alone, here in this forgotten wood. The trees that surround you have stood for an eternity before your arrival, and will remain long after your body has been consumed by the twisting roots below. This is your home. You have made it so through pain and sacrifice. Despite the ever-encroaching entity that overtakes everything that lives, you have fought, and it has made you hard and bitter. There is no room for mercy here. You know you will never leave. In just a few moments, Darkwood presents itself to you. It is a gritty, uncomfortable introduction. There's an immediate feeling of unease that settles into the pit of your stomach and never really goes away. It grabs and pulls at the senses in awkward directions, making sure that you know what this world is like, that you, the player, are out of your depth. The stage is set, and you are at its center, a man who has existed in this world for a long while. The twisted growths and bloodied cages which litter your home are but commonplace decorations. This place is your safety from the outside world. Still, there are doors that should remain locked, even from yourself. A discordant radio clicks endlessly in the background, and you are sure it is only static coming through. Why would you expect anything else? You know there is no way out. But none of this is of consequence to you. There are things that need to be done, important routines to complete. Being prepared is vital. It is how you remain alive and unconsumed. You must gather supplies and explore your surroundings. You must keep your eyes and ears open and move carefully. You will venture into the dark places and seek answers. These are the core mechanics of Darkwood, and they are delivered seamlessly through their prologue. You are driven forward, somewhat reluctantly, and taught through the introduction how to manage yourself and what is expected of you. You start to feel a bit of confidence rise up in your chest. You are not as unprepared as you were before. You're starting to adapt to this. It could be fun. If only. You finally wake up. The real you. The real player in this story. All that you saw before was a lie. A purposeful one to teach you. Now you know that Darkwood will lie to you. It will subvert your expectations and keep you guessing. Now, you can begin. A keen eye might have noticed the top-down perspective. This is how you will experience and explore much of the world. It is one of the many ways in which Darkwood uses its game mechanics to build an excellent level of dread and anxiety. This place is strange and illogical. It is unknown to you, and whatever it holds has noticed your presence. Though you are able to experience the world around you, you can only focus on one slice of it at a time. Through the use of a vision cone, Darkwood creates an area of relative safety, which can only ever be directly in front of your character, while ensuring that anything not within that cone is a mystery that could hold unspeakable horror, or at the very least, bear traps. Shifting shadows and distant noises pull at you constantly as you explore, forcing you to sway your vision all around in a vain attempt to watch your own back. What's more, you are a normal man, with no great physical ability or power. Your body is weak and has limitations. The movements of your character are all slow and deliberate. There is a limit to your stamina, and you can only take a few hits before you give in to the pain. Properly aiming the strike of an axe or carefully wrapping a wound are all deliberate actions which require time. During these moments, your focus shifts, no longer aimed at your surroundings. You must stand in the darkness and hope there is nothing waiting for you in the shadows. The visuals of this place call out to you in whispers and screams. Its seemingly simple 2D pixel style belies a deep understanding of horror aesthetic and what makes someone feel uneasy. There is very little in this place that you could not identify at a glance, but it feels as if you're staring at things through a mottled and infested lens. What clambers out from the dark was once familiar. You get the sense that this place could have been pleasant, but it has been twisted by something incomprehensible. It's wrong in ways that trigger your deepest instincts. Darkwood understands that true horror lies not in the obvious monster, but in the almost human. Things that should be familiar, but aren't. The environment itself is rendered in muted and sickly colors. Browns and greens that feel diseased. Blacks that seem to pulse with hidden life. During the day, everything is cast in a pale, anemic light that makes the world feel sick and dying. That asks if perhaps you too are now infected and will one day become like the rest of them. It leaves little room for the idea that you will leave this place at all, much less without having been changed by it first. The game's use of animation is equally purposeful in its restraint. Movement is subtle, often happening just at the edge of your perception. Trees sway unnaturally in winds you cannot feel. Shadows shift in ways that don't match their sources. The corrupted growth that infests this place rides with an organic quality that makes your skin crawl. Darkwood knows that your imagination is far more potent than any monster it could render. When something moves in the darkness beyond your vision cone, you catch only fragments. A limb, a shadow, a suggestion of something that shouldn't be there. Your attention is brought to these things only for the source to disappear back into the unknown, leaving your mind to fill in the blanks. This same approach is used to tell Darkwood's story. There is little here in the way of cutscenes or long-winded exposition. Like the visual style, the narrative emerges through suggestion and implication. A room's arrangement might tell a story of desperate survival. A collection of photographs might hint at the wood's expansion. Even the way that the trees obscure your vision as you walk under them. The visual elements and design are layered and intertwined like the growths that infest the world. Organic, spreading, and interconnected. It isn't long before you come across one of the more civilized inhabitants. Some other soul that has been trapped here and forced to exist. Like the environment, each character is crafted with care. Their very appearances tell stories that words cannot. Each one is a tiny tale wrapped within the larger narrative. First, you meet the wolf. His grinning face and seemingly friendly exterior is contrasted by the bullet hole on his jacket, placed just above the heart. Your mind wonders if it was a near-death experience that put it there, or if the jacket belonged to someone else before the wolf got a hold of it. You may even wonder if he might want to take something from you. But it doesn't really matter. Darkwood forces you to engage and interact if you are to survive. Those are the rules it has set. Yet, each being has found their own way to exist within the rules of this place. Or perhaps they've learned which rules they can break. They seem to operate on a different wavelength, understanding secrets about the woods that you can only glimpse in fragments. Their ability to traverse the night, to survive without the seemingly essential preparations you require, suggests either a terrible price paid or a truth yet unraveled. These other people are themselves unreliable narrators, but their unreliability feels less like deception and more like madness given voice. When their stories contradict each other, you're left to wonder if they experienced different versions of the same reality, or if reality itself shifts like the shadow in the woods. Their quests send you deeper into the darkness, each revelation leading to new questions. new horrors, and new understanding. Sometimes they speak of things yet to come. It is as if they've seen all of this before, as if you're not the first to walk this path. Their knowledge of future events is more corrupt memories than prophecy. But whose memories are they? Are you truly blazing new trail through these woods? Or are you simply following in footsteps long since overgrown? The deeper you are dragged into the story, the more you realize that every interaction, every scrap of dialogue, every quest given is another piece of a larger mystery. But like the puzzle assembled in darkness, you can never be sure if the pieces truly fit or if you're forcing connections that shouldn't exist. The woods seem to delight in this uncertainty, in the way it makes you question not just what you know, but how you know it. One thing has been made clear. If you are to survive the night, you must gather supplies and prepare within your shelter. You've been told to stay within the fog that billows from the strange oven within the home. Here, you will have a fighting chance. During the day, you explore and gather resources, uncover new areas and secrets, and are given a reluctant freedom to do as you wish within the confines of your environment. Throughout, you are keenly aware that this is but a temporary break, and that the clock is ticking. The sky casts into dull orange as the sun dips behind the canopy. You are left in the glow of artificial lights. The generator growls with life in the distance as night approaches. Nighttime is the final piece of what makes Darkwood unique. Acting as the counterpoint to the slow build of pressure and anxiety that happens during the daytime, the night is the grand finale that ushers in the nightmares. Darkwood is a game of patience. It revels in making you sit in an uneasy silence and wait for whatever comes. The night brings with it a symphony of terror. Every sound becomes suspect, every shadow a potential threat. Your eyes try to make out anything that can give a hint as to what comes next. The generator's steady rhythm becomes both comfort and curse. Its drone masks the approach of others, yet its silence would mean total darkness. You find yourself straining to hear past it, past your own breathing, past the blood rushing in your ears. Here you sit and wait, the minutes stretching forward at a painful pace. In total, a night lasts around 5 minutes, but it feels like an eternity, and there is no order or expectation to what may happen. Your mind strains and stretches trying to predict what will happen, trying to prepare you, but it can't. Sometimes the night passes in absolute silence. These are almost worse than the attacks. You sit, waiting, knowing that something should come. The woods are never this quiet, never this still. Your mind begins to play tricks on you, manufacturing threats from nothing, until you're jumping at your own shadows. Darkwood understands that anticipation is often more terrifying. It does a fantastic job of letting you scare yourself. This philosophy of design is what truly makes Darkwood stand out. It builds tension and suspense in a way that it never really lets go of. There is always pressure being applied, to the point where you almost want to be jump scared so that you can finally let go of that anxiety. Things will come, but when they do, the encounters are never what you expect. You will sit, huddled in a corner that you feel offers adequate protection, staring past the single source of light in the room to the door just beyond, the only entrance to the room. You stare and hope and ready yourself, your body tense with expectation. Then the door will swing open. Your heart jumps, ignoring the fact that you heard no footsteps approach, saw no shadow through the wall. You rush forward, trying to close it. You manage it and brace yourself for something to burst through. But there is nothing. The door remains closed and you're left waiting, wrapped in the built tension with no escape. Sometimes it's scratching at the wall. Other times, something mimics human speech just outside your windows, or a polite knock at your door, which becomes more insistent as you try to ignore it. The barriers between you and them feel paper thin. Your carefully arranged furniture, your blockades, your weapons, they all seem inadequate against whatever waits in the dark. Every night is different, dynamic and unpredictable. The trees seem to learn your patterns, your preparations, and adjust accordingly. The sound design during these encounters is masterful, as with much of the game. Distance becomes meaningless in the dark. A whisper might come from inches away or yards distant. Footsteps circle your shelter, but their direction is impossible to pin down. The music, when it comes, builds not in obvious crescendos, but in subtle layers of dread, only making itself noticeable once it's already overwhelming. All the parts that Darkwood has shown you come together into a clear image of despair and terror. They link to create an experience that forces you into horror without chasing you down with loud noises or flashing images. Sometimes you must move during the night, to repair a generator, to check a noise, to defend against an intrusion. Each step away from your safe zone feels like tempting fate. The darkness beyond your lights seems absolute, hungry. Your vision cone becomes a lifeline, but it also means you can never see everything at once. Something could always be just behind you, just beyond the end of your light. They are not bound by the same rules you are. You struggle, gritting your teeth and doing what you can to survive. Then, finally, mercifully, the first hints of dawn begin to show. The music swells, not in triumph, but in relief, as white light bleeds into the world. You feel your body relaxing, breath escaping as you slouch back into your chair. Muscles you didn't even know were tense finally release. The screen flares a brilliant, pure white as the message shows. Day 2. Then it hits you. That was just the first night of many, and you know with crushing certainty that you must do this again and again. The cycle is unbroken, relentless, yet something drives you forward. Perhaps the hope of escape, or perhaps the wood themselves infected you with their mysteries. Each morning, as the tension drains from your body, you find yourself already planning for the next night, already thinking about what lies just a little deeper in the forest. The horror becomes routine, but never comfortable, never safe. But you have survived. You have proven that this is not an absolute enemy, and that you can make your way in this world. Your confidence once again starts to build. Your skills develop, and like those that have spent time in this place, you start to learn and understand the unspoken rules. You have changed. You can feel it in the way your eyes have adjusted to the darkness, in how the corruption that once seemed so alien now feels almost familiar. Like the other residents of this place, you've begun to understand things that shouldn't make sense. The woods have worked their way into your mind, granting you understanding. There are ways out of these woods, you feel certain. There must be an end to this madness. But escape might not mean what you once thought it meant. The real question becomes not whether you can leave, but whether you should. Whether whatever walks out of these woods would still be you at all, Darkwood doesn't just tell you a story, it infects you with it. Through its masterful blend of atmospheric tension, psychological dread, and deliberate game design, it creates an experience that lingers long after the screen goes dark. You've learned to survive here, yes, but survival comes at a cost. Each night endured, each secret uncovered, each bargain struck, they all leave their mark. The true fear is not that you might die here, but that you might live long enough to become something else. Still, you push deeper into the darkness, driven by that most human of desires, to understand, to overcome, to be free. Whether that drive will lead to salvation or something else remains to be seen. After all, the woods are patient.